Hey guys, let's talk about the standard agent exclusive right to sell brokerage agreement to standard listing agreement, the SAER. And so this is our right to represent a seller. And so I've had a few questions about this lately. And so I wanted to just pull one up real quick and explain it to the best of my ability. Hopefully this is helpful to somebody. So down here, paragraph 2 under brokerage fee. So what we are used to and what we've always done historically is we would put 3 and 3. We're going to get 3 and the selling firm is going to get 3. That's not the way this form reads any longer. And so since the NAR settlement procedure rules went into effect in August, or I think it was August, yeah, the forms have changed. And so I just want to clarify. So now it says if the property is sold or exchanged, optioned, or otherwise transferred at any time during the listing period. Let me make this a little bit smaller here. The top box is how much is Virginia First Realty Group going to collect for your representation of the seller in this process. So the top box is all about you, all about Virginia First Realty Group. And so traditionally, typically, we want to put 3 in that box. More, if it's so determined. But we're going to put 3 in the top box in this example. You could also use a flat rate. You could check this box and put in, $5,000, $7,000, $7,500, $10,000, whatever that number happens to be. You could certainly do that in lieu of a percentage of sale price. But where people are getting confused, I think, is the second part. And so the second part of paragraph 2. And so right here it says, if no real estate firm other than the listing firm is involved in the purchase and sale of the property, and the listing firm does not represent the buyer of the property in any way such that the buyer is an unrepresented party. So, if a buyer comes directly to you as the listing agent, and that buyer agrees to purchase the property unrepresented, there's no other agent involved in the transaction, the seller, in addition to the 3% listing fee, right, that we put right here, in addition to that, the brokerage fee contemplated above, in this scenario, the seller agrees to pay an additional compensation to the listing firm in the following amount. And so in this example, what you see is we had put 2% in this box. And so the idea is if a buyer comes directly to me, they don't have their own agent, and they agree to purchase this property unrepresented by any agent, not even me, unrepresented by any agent. I'm going to walk them through the process. I'm going to help them with the paperwork. I'm not going to make any decisions on them because my fiduciary obligation still remains with the seller of this property. And my job as the listing agent is to get them the very best deal possible without any regard to the buyer or their best interest, right? And so if the buyer comes to me and says, I'm willing to purchase this property without an agent, I'm okay being unrepresented, then the seller agrees to pay additional compensation to Virginia First Realty Group for my facilitating that process, for my writing the offer, for my facilitating any inspections, for my negotiation with said buyer. Right? The seller is agreeing to pay our firm more for handling both sides of the transaction. That's what this box is for. You could change that to a flat dollar amount. If a buyer comes to me directly, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I'm going to help them out for just $5,000. I'd be willing to do that for you. That's what I wanted to clarify. You could use that money, as compensation to Virginia First, and obviously you're going to collect your percentage of commission from that money. But you can also use that money to help a prospective buyer. If you felt so inclined and it was in the best interest you felt like of you and your seller to maybe offer some credit or accommodation or concession to that buyer to help them through this process, you could certainly do that. There's no reason that Virginia First Realty Group couldn't take a part of that money that you're collecting and give it to the buyer, maybe for closing costs, something like that. If you needed to do that, you could certainly pay for repairs, pay for inspections, whatever you think is in the best interest of your client in getting this transaction completed. You could use the money in that way. Just keep in mind that there's no other agent involved, and so the intent behind this form is simply to see to it that we're receiving our minimum said compensation as a listing firm and additional compensation if we act as the selling firm working with an unrepresented buyer. All right, that was a lot longer than I thought it was going to be, but hopefully it helped somebody.